The following program is rated TVMA. This program may contain strong opinions, explicit language, and possible adult themes. The opinions expressed are not necessarily those of the Smoke Free Radio Network or its affiliates. This program is meant for mature adult audience. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to the Smoke Free Radio Network.
That was interesting.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Vaping in the Mic. I'm Mike Peterson, sitting behind this big tennis racket that Dimitri loves to point out to me every time that I see him. But anyhow, tonight I've got a couple of guys here. One tries to be conservative, one does not at all. And we're going to get into some very serious discussions here in a minute. Just want to take a minute here in the chat room tonight. So far, we got Mr. Bill Tarling, Jerry Reed, Mike Felling, Ron Imes. It's good to see you guys. I know that we'll have some extra people chiming in as we go along. But this evening, out of the blue, I was chatting with this gentleman, and he goes, let's do a show. And I said, absolutely. I'm never going to say no, because this guy has stuff on his mind. And he told me, he goes, now look, we have to add somebody to go with this. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. So this evening, here on Vaping in the Mic, if you would welcome, we have Mr. David Goerlitz and Kevin Crowley. Gentlemen, how are you?
Howdy.
Living the dream.
You're living the dream? You adjusted your cam, you damn shit. Look at you.
I have a cold. I brought it home from Oklahoma City, 3 weeks. I can't get rid of the damn thing. And I got my Kleenex here. So if you see me using my Kleenex, I can't afford the regular tissues at the dollar store. So I have to use TP. But I'm glad to be here. And I don't go anywhere without my bud, Kevin Crowley, because not only is he my bail bondsman, he's my right hand, my left hand, my right nut, my left nut, and
just swinging.
And I just need him to be with me because he has been always at my side from the beginning when we first met after at the premiere of A Billion Lives, and we were even friends before that, but we had never personally met. So I go where I go with Kevin, and at some point in our careers and the vaping industry, we're going to be able to build a project together that's going to be second to none, and it's going to be different from anything else you've ever seen. And I know it sounds arrogant and crass to say that because I have to do it my way. Kevin knows that. Kevin's allowed me to be who I am. I don't have a lot of friends in this industry. I have a lot of acquaintances, but I don't have a lot of friends who really know my heart and my passion, because I'm really nothing without my passion, guys. And Kevin's aware of that.
Now, I know that Kevin, every time that I talk with him, he is always surprising me with other information that he has or something that's going on.
It's incredible.
And I'll tell you what, he wrote one seriously long blog. And I'm sitting here and I'm reading this thing and I'm scrolling and I'm reading and I'm scrolling and I'm reading and I'm scrolling. I'm like, oh my God. When I got to the bottom, well, I kid you not, his comment was, sorry guys, I didn't mean for it to be that big. And I'm like,
he can go on.
What man ever effing says that? Come on. No man has ever said that in their life. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for it to be so big. Yeah, bullshit. But it was so informational that it wasn't even funny. Mm-hmm. Hey, David, the last time that I talked with you, you and I had chatted when we did a recording for a previous show. And you had a lot going on then.
Mm-hmm.
what new things that you can talk about are
Well, I
you
talk about
into?
everything, Mike. I'm not afraid to talk. I mean, everything has now come to a fruition with me to where I'm either going to poop or get off the pot. Okay, it's one or the other. It's a win or lose, right or wrong. If I go down, I'm going to go down in a ball of fire that will be seen by many, and hopefully I'll be able to survive it physically and mentally. Mentally, right now, I'm in a bad way with this industry. So I've always sidetracked, who I want to talk about, because there's a lot of people in this industry I really don't like. And then there's a lot of people I just love to death, and you know who I'm talking about. And, I could name them if I had to, but it's not necessary. I just take the high road and I walk away from people that I can no longer do what they ask of me in the way that they want to use me as entertainment, as a pole dancer at conferences, at expos. I don't go to these things. I always check with Kevin before I go, and he knows where I'm going to go as far as the conventions and the great expos and the NBE and the Vape Carnivals and the Midwest Vapors. Because in the very beginning of who I was, people have always known me as the former Winston Man. A lot of people know my story a little bit. I mean, a billion lives, Michael, and Kevin knows this, but a billion lives is only this much of who I am, and
Less.
people,
Yeah.
and a lot of people who saw a billion lives, and it's sad that it's only about 2% of the vapors in the United States ever got off their asses and went to see it. I mean, I go to conventions every time I go, and Rodman from Vape Radio will say, "How many have seen Billion Lives?" Hey, you know how Rod is; he gets really crazy and neurotic and a pain in the ass. But he's just yelling and screaming, "Who's on Billion Lives? Who's up?" And you see a smattering of maybe 12 hands out of 45. And here we are in 2019, and the film's been out since 2016. And people just don't care. And I said that in the documentary, Mike. Nobody cares. And I retracted that because certainly some people do care. So I have to reiterate and say not enough people care.
That's a whole point that somebody made. And I've thought much the same thing. A Billion Lives came out. I've watched it. It is a very profound insight into things that are going on. Things that have happened, things that are happening, where things might go. But it's not Titanic or Indiana Jones. The people that either don't smoke or don't vape don't care.
Exactly. So when I talk about nobody cares, I'm talking about the general public. I'm talking about the big pharmaceuticals, the big tobacco companies, because they never expected to be taken down the way they did with the vaping culture when it came around. It really got hot around 2013 and 14. When it really took off. When it started out in 2007 and 8, I was at the very, very beginning of this, horse race. And I got involved, and I started to meet people like Mike Siegel from Boston University, and Elaine Keller from CASA, and Julie Westner, and then some young pissant, and I call him pissant only because Senator Vitale calls him a pissant, and that's my good friend Greg Connolly. Senator Vitale, who was in New Jersey, who was writing all these damn bills against vaping, he was trying to put up with this guy Greg Connolly, and he told me that Greg Connolly's a pissant, and I said, no, he's not. He's a very smart young man who wants nothing other than try to help people live longer. So this was from my lips to his ears at the vaping conference in New Jersey that got shut down because we found out in the 12th hour, and it wasn't my convention, but they found out that they weren't going to be allowed to vape at the convention. How crazy is that? So in the very beginning, all these people that I met from 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, I watched the industry. I hope for the best. I hope that we could get people, to come in and compete with all the people we had to deal with. And here's the point, guys. The point that I think about all the time is here you have these doctors, these educators, these psychologists, these research scientists, all these people at Roswell Park Cancer Institute, all of these people at Boston University, all these people at Stanford University, the Stanton Glances, the Dr. Mike Cummings, and all the other people at the CDC and AMA and ACS and AL, all these people who had public health information, medical knowledge, degrees in public awareness. And here we find out who's fighting them. The the pissants like me, the pissants like Greg Conley, the pissants like you, the pissants like Kevin Crowley. And I say pissants with love and compassion because to the public, we're nothing. We're nobodies. All we are is people that have a story that can affect people's lives, okay? And we are just nobody until Aaron Biebert brought a lot of us together. Without Aaron Biebert and A Billion Lives, I would have been gone a long time ago. I mean, Aaron gave me the platform that I needed. I had 29 minutes in a film, and I only got this much out of what I wanted to say. And I was hoping that this would get legs to where the entire industry and the public would see it. But at the very end of the documentary, I said, nobody cares. And I wanted to redirect that and say, not enough people care. So
It's true.
So then I became involved with just how do I meet these people? How do I meet people like Greg Conley, who lives only 20 minutes from me? And now he's an intern. He's going to law school. He's an intern for CASA, and he's dealing with Elaine Keller and Julie Westner. And then Alex Clark comes in. And then you start seeing, Safada come in with Shell Hamill and Cynthia Cabrera. And I'm like, this is not going anywhere, guys. And this is as far back as 2013 and 14. 5 years ago. And I'm saying, you guys got to get a little bit angrier here because, these people at the RJ Reynolds and Philip Morris and Altria at that point, and Laura Lard and Brown and Williamson and British American Tobacco, they're going to come after you because right now there's like 1 million people who've quit smoking and now they're vaping these crappy, shitty e-cigs, whether they be the original blue or the first generation. So, and then by then, 2013, I must say there was a couple others that were coming in to the market that were a little bit more aggressively good for the statistics that we needed to show that it was better than your normal nicotine replacement therapy and your Chantix and your Nicoban and your Nicorette and your Habitril. So anyway, I'm coming along as this bimbo. I'm coming along as this former Winston Man who was now, being played as the guy who made history by turning his back on big tobacco. And I didn't get a movie like Dr. Jeffrey Wigand did in The Insider. He was the doctor who was working for Brown and Williamson, and he was the whistleblower on was it ABC, CBS? Was it? You know what I'm talking about, huh?
Now I don't remember.
60 Minutes with Mike Wallace, and Mike Wallace was played by Christopher Plummer, and then you had the reporter that was played by Al Pacino, and you had Dr. Wigand who was played by Russell Crowe. So I got involved with them because I became a good resource to help add to the story having been the former Winston Man who knew that the tobacco companies targeted and marketed kids, which is what's explained in the Billion Lives. So if anybody's interested in getting educated, they can go pay $3.99 and rent the damn thing, but nobody wants to do that because we are so distracted with everything else in the world, with immigration and Trump and Catholics and, abuse. And now we got blackface, and now everything is just in the frickin' way to where nobody wants to put any emphasis or any real strategies behind what we know to be true about our nation's number one cause of death. Nobody gives a rat's ass. So, there's only very few people who are able to help people motivate and enhance the quality of people's lives by raising the level of awareness. And I was one of them. And Aaron Biebert from A Billion Lives gave me that opportunity. And from that, I got to meet beautiful, wonderful human beings who had similar passions to mine, but didn't have my story. Okay. Because everybody else's was just suspicions. Everybody else's was just speculation about big tobacco. And I had proof. And to this day, and Kevin will attest this, not one organization in the vaping industry has used me to sit down, to call me in for an hour, 2 or 3 hour meeting. All it's been is me being on a vape conference or, in a panel, and then people befriended me by saying, hey, this guy's got a story, but nobody gives a rat's ass to find a way to tell my story. So, and that sounds pretty arrogant, that my story is pretty important, in my opinion. Well, I think it is pretty important in the vaping industry. My job was to get people smoking, when they're 14, 15, 16, 17. They become addicted to tobacco or nicotine. And now we're trying to find out, is it really addictive, as they say, or is it psychological versus physical? And now we got, 41 million remaining smokers in the United States, millions throughout the rest of the world who are still smoking a product that contains 4,700 chemicals and gases and poisons and irritants and vapors and pesticides. And we're still worrying about the fact that we now have to get more clinical data to prove it. Screw that. We have enough data, we have enough research, we have enough information, and yet here we have a wonderful opportunity when you have an ex-smoker or somebody who's trying to quit smoking and finds vaping to be not only a pleasurable and a viable and a pharmacological improvement and substitute physiologically and socially to now not smoke anymore, and then it's corroborated with replicatable science to say that it is safer and it is better for you. And we can't get our own Surgeon General and our own politicians and our own, FDA directors and our health educators to look into it and say, hey, let's embrace this opportunity so another 1,200 people don't have to die tomorrow. So our battle is huge, and we just don't have a big enough army in our industry, whether it be VTA or SAFADA or CASA or AVA or NBA, whoever. I don't really care anymore. I don't work with them. They've never called me. I get calls from some people to come down and see a convention. I went down to Austin, and you had the Austin SAFADA conference in December. And at the same time, you had the VTA conference right across the city in the same town in the same time. And I have to pick and choose who I'm going to go and support. There's no unity in this industry. There is no compassion for working together. Everybody's egos are so tremendously huge. So I pretty much have come up with the idea that if bullshit was concrete, the vaping industry would be a fucking highway. Okay? And what can I tell you? I mean,
Beep, beep.
We have not had enough wins in our column, but yet people will say, oh, Goerlitz, shut the hell up. We have had wins. And some of these people are my friends. And everybody who runs a state organization fights and works hard. They work 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. These are the people who also have stores and families and brick and mortars, and yet they can't get the support necessary for $50 to $100 a month from 250 brick and mortar stores to have somebody go out and fight for them. So they have to beg. Then they get frustrated. Then they get angry. Then they get mad. Then they start, bitching and moaning like I do. I rant. I bitch, I moan because we're frustrated. And so when I say nobody cares, I'm going to stand by that to a certain degree.
I'm glad that you said it that way, that we are frustrated, because there's a lot of people, and it could be you. People could look at you right now and say, you're just an angry, old, pissed off man.
Yeah, they could say that, because I am. I'm an angry, pissed off old man.
But there's a huge difference. The way that I'm looking at it, your frustration is born out of having a passion for something and seeing all of these people, shops, manufacturers, everybody that could be pitching in to state groups, national groups, any place that they could be chunking in a little bit of money, and they are not, because
Michael,
they don't.
Let me tell you something. You go to these conventions, and I got to tell you, I've been to 13, 14, or 15, I don't know how many. I just got back from one in Oklahoma City, and I love them because I go with my good friends at Pinnacle, because I have a CBD line with one of the best CBD full spectrum hemp products out there in the market. And I don't say that just because I have a line with them. I've tried them all, but they're just great, wonderful people who have similar passions to mine. But I go to these conventions, guys. Okay. And Kevin came to the one, I guess it was, where was it? In Toledo or
No, Bowling Green.
Bowling Green, and I go to these conventions, and I got to tell you, Mike, Kevin, 60% of the people who have a booth there shouldn't be there. Nature should have found a way to thin the herd a long time ago, because they are not good for the industry. They don't have the kind of knowledge that we need to reach the 40 million remaining addicted or smokers who choose to smoke because they like it and they can't quit for whatever reason. But then you get all these organizations who now get a booth. They'll spend $5,000, $7,000, $12,000 for a booth to sell their stuff. And how many freaking ways can you change the flavor of strawberry? How many freaking ways can you, show this design to be a better, product to when you do a hand check? How does it look on the labels? And yet we screwed up. And now what we've done, and we have and I know it's only an hour show. I wish it was a 5-hour show because I'm on a roll, but we have been giving Scott Gottlieb a big FU, because he gave us warnings a year ago or whenever it was and said, you need to do this, 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 and this. And a lot of people have just said, F you, we're going to do what we want to do. So now he's got to strengthen his passion and flex his muscles and say, yeah, okay. And then we're going to find a way to get you blown out of the water because you're not going to
I'm going to stop you there just for a quick second.
Sure.
Kevin,
Yep.
you started something that you tweet that absolutely floored me. And it made it, to me, it was hilarious.
Good.
You have a picture of the Surgeon General
He's a good.
and
looking
a
guy.
day count that he
days.
has not responded to you.
Correct.
Or me.
Anybody.
I actually tweeted David's phone number to him specifically.
You said that, and I asked you, I'm like, you honest to God put his phone number out there? And you said, yeah, look, whap. And you showed me that. I'm like, oh my God.
But guess who did call me, guys?
Guess who did?
C. Everett Koop back in 1980
Right.
when they were trying to go against the big tobacco companies. They had me down in Washington 5 or 6 different times with, Matt Myers from the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids and Cliff Douglas and several other doctors and Senator Lautenberg from New Jersey, who's now deceased. And, so I was used when I was used. Okay. And now I have been given, and I've left enough trails or breadcrumbs on the trails for people to follow me. So I guess, people know who I am. I mean, Mike, you heard about me. You came down to see me with James Jarvis when I went to Ohio to visit.
I'll tell you what, that you shocked me.
What?
And I knew that you were going to be there. And James and I had talked about, and he's here this evening. Just a quick second here for the people that are in the chat. Thomas and Daniel. Tristan Thompson's in here. Hi, Tristan. Jamie Gibson.
Hi, Tristan.
There's a lot of people here. The Ed West, Glenn. I would go through and read a lot of this. But when we met, I was told it was going to be you. And then all of a sudden, it was going to be Kevin Crowley was going to be there. And Fig Ramsey. And I'm like, oh my God, it's a 3.5 hour drive. I got to go. And I didn't know what to expect because we have this stigma that people that have done modeling careers or acting careers, or they have a career that is in the public eye, we think of them a little bit differently, and we're not sure how to interact with them. And I walked in, and they introduced me to you. You put your hand right out there. You said, Mike, how the hell you doing? And I was floored by how approachable you were.
That has got to be the biggest misunderstanding about people who found a way to get lucky. I was lucky. When I was hired to be the Winston Man in 1981, I beat out 900 other guys for no other reason other than I had the look that they happened to be looking for. Okay. I happened to fit the bill that they were looking for. And that's exactly what's happening today with the FDA. There are people in the vaping industry who will win or lose, and the FDA is making that decision. Just like R.J. Reynolds, the agents that hired me to be the Winston Man, they had a decision to make. They're going to pick somebody to win, and they're going to pick 966 other guys to lose. Okay, so that's the balance of what I want to try to get to people's in their minds is that you got right now the FDA is saying they're the ones who will pick the winners and the losers in this. And right now, the winners are Big Tobacco. The winners are Altria, who just bought Juul, or bought 35% of it. You got Imperial that bought Blue after Von Earl sold to Imperial Tobacco. You got several other companies and manufacturers who are now negotiating with Big Tobacco, and they are going to be selling. They're going to quality control, and their method of packaging and manufacturing will be under the auspices of quality control by Big Tobacco. So, we don't choose who wins and loses, okay, when we struggle, okay? Mike, I don't know what you do for a living outside this. I'm sure you're not making a ton of money doing this. Kevin Crowley is independently wealthy. He doesn't care. I worked my ass off, from the time I was 19 years old. And that's not to get anybody to feel sorry for me and poor. No, I got really freaking lucky. I got to be a stuntman for Harrison Ford. I got to do television. I got to do movies. Because of the Winston job. So one door closes. I was 256 pounds, when I started my diet, and I went down to 170, and I became a model. I mean, that's a story. That's a pretty neat story from a kid who was a cross-eyed bedwetter when he was 13 and 14 years of age, and the son of a Baptist preacher, and peaked out at 276 pounds, going down to 256 pounds. So I'm just saying the story of why people would find me unapproachable is so ridiculous to me. The only people that don't talk to me are my kids. Okay. I mean, they don't care who I am. They don't care what I did. They know that I get in their way sometime, and I tried to raise them the right way. But I am the most approachable guy, like you said. Hopefully, I try to be. And I've always tried to be approachable to the people at CASA and SFATA and AVA and VTA. And I love these people. And don't get me wrong. Everybody's going to say, well, now he's bad. And I'm not bad-mouthing anybody. I know how hard Julie Westner and Alex Clark work. I know how hard Greg Connolly worked. I remember Greg Connolly when he passed the bar exam and he left CASA as an intern, if my recollection is correct. He was sleeping on people's couches trying to pass out cards to get people to understand. He worked his ass off too, and he deserves every penny that he makes. And Alex, whoever's making money in this industry, God bless you, except for the people who are ruining it and screwing it up for the industry, like the Candy King and the Drip Moors and all the other people that, Tristan could probably give me a grocery list full of people who I should, go over and punch them in the throat, So I'm just saying I'm approachable to a point, but if I'm not being used, I have to do it my way. People listen to people who step up to a microphone and say something important. They just don't listen to people who, have an idea and they have a strategy. Hope is not a fucking strategy, okay? Hope is not a strategy. Hope is something that we all want. Wouldn't you love to win $180 million in a Powerball? That's hope.
Yeah.
That's hope. But what's the chances of you getting it? Very slim to none.
Yeah,
so,
not much.
Let's have some hope that we have got the right people in our leadership positions that are going to take the bull by the horn, amass a small army to go in there and find the brick and mortar stores to pay a lousy $100 a month to put in, 7,000 stores. And that's a lot of money to go in and pay for a good lobbyist, not just somebody who comes along and says, hey, I can go in and lobby for you. It's going to cost you $60,000 or $80,000. And these state agencies can only get 15 to 16 because nobody wants to give a nickel out of their pocket, but they want somebody to do the work for them. They want 3% of the people to do 100% of the work.
Yes.
And then and this is where I'll get off my rant. And now you got some state organizations that find me to be too militant. I don't know why. I don't think I'm militant. I haven't started any civil disobedience. I just say what I think. And when I say what I think, it's because I just love this industry so much. And I've just seen not enough wins on the scoreboard for us to be able to win this victory instead of turning it over on a silver platter to big tobacco. And Kevin knows this. That's why Kevin and I get along so well, because he listens, he understands, and he tries to help me by giving me information every week in his blog and in his posts, that I can get the updated information of what's happening, because I can't worry about what's happening in France or in Germany or in Belgium or in New Zealand. I have to worry about what's happening to 40 million remaining smokers in this country. And I have to worry about the 6 million teens who are now smoking still combustible tobacco that nobody gives a rat's ass about, because now they're focused on the 2 million who are juuling or vaping.
That, to me, is one of the biggest farces that I have ever seen. For years.
Let me stop you both real quick.
What?
Just the other night, I don't remember was it your show, I think, that New Mexico just got a state group. This is 2019. I don't understand. So that's something I'm pretty pissed off about.
Now,
here's the thing, okay? And I mentioned names of people that I really respect. And Julie Westner is just one of them, and Alex Clark. I mean, they're just dog tired. They have got so many people that they have to fight, and so many people that are looking, for them to fix all the problems. Just like everybody's now blaming Aaron Bieber. Everybody's after Aaron Bieber like he did something wrong because he put 2 years into a movie and because he didn't give it away free to get more people to see it. Everybody had the opportunity to spend $11 to go see it on the social media that ran before the Milwaukee premiere in July, was it, 2016 or August?
August.
Okay, and then it ran about, and you couldn't fill a theater with 100 people, and everybody's saying they can't afford $11 to go buy a movie. It's not like it wasn't out there in social media. Aaron Bieber did a hell of a good job, and I became a part of that film. And there's people now who are asking me, well, what are your feelings on his new movie? Well, whatever it takes to get people to listen, to get people to care. And nicotine is certainly something that the FDA is looking at. Nicotine is certainly something that put Juul on the map with their 50 milligram pod system that put them into a $38 billion, stock portfolio.
Yes.
So nicotine is something that should have a better understanding. And here's where I come in, because I sat there and I watched, and I was in the room when 7 tobacco executives went before Congress, and every one of the 7 tobacco executives raised their right hand to God and said, nicotine is not addictive. Nicotine is not addictive 7 times down the road. Now everybody thinks that nicotine is what kills people because it's addictive. So we've got some misunderstandings and myths. And now what we have medical people, we have researchers, we have scientists, we have Michael Cummings, we have Stanton Glances, we have Cliff Douglas's, we have Matt Myers, we have the people, Cheryl Heaton, we have Erica Stewart, they have that, what's her name, from American Lung. I forget. But all these people are knowledgeable, smart people, and they have found a way to circumvent the way to help people live longer by saying, hey, we're not going to let these people rule to us how we're going to make our living for the rest of our lives, because we have proof that says that smoking and vaping are equal and they're the same. That's a bunch of bullshit. And now we got the Surgeon General saying that, e-cigarettes are right up there with heroin epidemic. So,
yeah, bullshit.
And then we don't have enough people fighting back. I mean, I love Tony. Tony Aboud's a nice guy. He works hard, and he's got a good staff, and Jake and Amy and Kasa and Alex. But we need to fight harder. We need a bigger army. And we talked about this when Eric Batsford, back in whenever it was, went on a rant because of what was going on with not having any unity. And, VTA was taking these members, and members didn't want to sign up with SFATA anymore because SFATA's not doing the job. We're going to spend our energy fighting ourselves. We don't need the FDA to fuck it up.
Yeah.
We can do it all by ourselves.
Here's a perfect example of that. And I fell into the same pit trap. You mentioned that Aaron is doing a new movie, You Don't Know Nicotine. And there was almost an immediate backlash saying, well, 1 billion lives didn't do shit for us, and this didn't do shit for us, and it didn't happen over here, and it didn't create this wave that we wanted. And then one person, and I want to say it was Fig Ramsey, and I'm not directly sure, one person said, okay, so it's not going to make it in time for the PMTA process. It will probably come out after that. But
right.
What about the other 7 billion people on the planet? Don't they deserve it?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I went, holy shit.
Kevin, when you have an opportunity to get, and I've failed just like everybody else. Everybody I'm bitching about, I've done the same thing because I've kept my mouth shut. I've always tried to make sure that I was kind to people, and my dad was a Baptist preacher, and I'm a Christian, and I try to be nice, and sometimes the F word bomb gets out, and I don't use the Lord's name in vain.
Guilty.
I just say I tried, but sometimes people get so angry and frustrated that we have to lash out at the people we care about the most, and that's just like our families. When I get angry, I lash out at my wife. And my wife had nothing to do with it. So when people who are bashing Aaron Bieber in 1 Billion Lives, and it was a damn good film, it could have done a lot better. It could have gotten better legs. Had some marketing issues. They didn't have money to market it. I have an idea of how to get my documentary out there, and I'm going to do one. I'm not asking for crowdfunding. I'm not asking for Kickstarter. I'm not asking for a dime from anybody, okay? Because I have to own it. And if I have to own it, I have to present it in a way that people are going to want to see it and not feel obligated to see it. And my story, I think, is pretty unique. I was the Winston Man. I was a little fat kid, bedwetter, Baptist preacher's kid, became an actor after getting married at 19, still married 49 years in May to the same woman with 3 kids, 7 grandkids, 2 great-grandkids.
Wow.
And now I'm sitting here tonight with COPD and emphysema because I didn't quit early enough. Even though I quit in 1988, I quit and cheated for 7, 8, 9 years stealthily. I go out and hide behind the barn, because I didn't know how to quit. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, vaping comes along. And I started to see people who didn't have to struggle the way I did with the quitting and cheating and the relapsing. And I'm saying, hey, this is a pretty neat concept. So that's when I got involved in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then around 2013, you saw this humongous exponential growth as a culture, with vaping. And then everybody jumped into it, just like they are now with CBD.
It's the one thing. You say culture, and it's true.
It is a culture. No question.
Well, it started out as a counterculture movement.
Mm-hmm.
And the only people that were going, hey, this is fucking cool, were people my size with beards. They were the you would have sworn, if you opened up the door to a vape shop, you would have sworn you'd just either walked into a biker bar or an outcast bar.
Right.
Seriously, But it's funny because I have yet to walk into any vape store that looks like that and meet somebody that is really an asshole. I walk in and they're like, hey man, I've got this creme brulee and I've got this blueberry cream, and you would swear you went into another universe.
I travel to a lot of shops and I talk about the young kids, and I have 3 kids of my own. They're grown. I have 7 grandkids, and and I know how kids are, because I'm just a big kid in prolonged adolescence myself. And I spent 17 years as the former Winston Man going around to schools all over the world trying to get kids to never start smoking because of what damage I did to a lot of people when I was enticing and encouraging and luring and tricking and targeting and marketing. So I had to do a pay it forward kind of a thing, and then all of a sudden here's a concept, a product that can help people make it a little bit easier. And then, the nicotine had nothing to do with it, because I was no longer addicted to nicotine, because I quit and struggled, and it took a while, but I finally did it. And I tell people who vape the same thing. My e-liquid line that I have with Vapes Gone Wild is, 3 flavors. It's a coffee, it's a tobacco, and it's a very subtle fruit flavor with high nicotine if they want it, up to 24 milligrams. But then you exponentially reduce it when you're ready, because not every vapor, and a lot of people get pissed off at me for saying this in the industry. I'm saying, if you quit smoking by vaping, and after a year, 2 years, 3 years, you find that you've reduced your nicotine levels because you're really seriously about getting healthy, and getting into a wellness pattern and taking CBD to help with other issues, because let's face it, smokers who've smoked for 30, 40, 50 years generally aren't healthy in other areas of their life. So why not take a product that has been proven to be not only neuroprotectant in your brain, but also physiologically, advantageous to you to get better and heal through CBD or cannabis or whatever. So, all this happened to start coming around to me in the last 2-3 years, which is why I became more passionate than ever before, because I became just like a lot of people. I just bitched and moaned and complained. And the Democrats are screwing it up for everybody. The Dickie Blumenthals, the Sherrod Browns, all the other Dick Durbins and all the other negative people who are trying to ban e-liquids and ban, vaping in public, just like we did in New Jersey. I don't know if you remember the New Jersey Expo 2 or 3 years ago. Senator Vitale, that's why I was talking about Senator Vitale and Greg Conley, because it's in New Jersey where we all live. And the night before the expo, Senator Vitale came in and said that you're not going to be allowed to vape at the expo. Well, there's a real, fly in the ointment. There's a fly in the Metamucil. How are you going to get 3,000 people to come in and not be able to vape? So I learned very quickly that this industry was very immature. It was very understaffed. It was very underfunded. There was no money available. The only ones that were making money who were making shitty juice in the gas station next to the urinal and selling it for $10 for 30 mil or whatever it was. So I learned quickly that this was going to be an industry that's going to need a lot of work. And then you started seeing groups forming. And at that time, and this is where I'm going to agree with you, everybody I met at these shows, you don't judge a book by a cover, with the ear gauges and the tats and the flat brims and, tats, and there's a lot of wackadoodles, but they're really loving, caring people.
Yeah, they are.
Kevin and I have seen a lot of them, when we go to these shows, and I just love the whole industry for what the concept of vaping can do for 40 million remaining smokers. And I'm really sick and tired that the 9 or 10 million vapors that we now have who struggled on their own, they quit smoking by vaping, and some do dual use. So what? Who cares? Who cares? Who gives a shit? As long as every cigarette they don't have is another nail that's not going to go into their coffin. So, but we need to address the whole thing, okay? And this is an industry that was invented by smokers, for smokers, and now they're vaping, and now somebody's trying to take it away. And you know what? Smoking is the only thing that a teen, because 93% of smokers start under the age of 18. So when you have 93% of people smoking and they were under 18, and I'm telling you, it was my job as the Winston Man, just like the Marlboro Man and the Salem lady, to entice and encourage and lure them. That's the only thing that teenager is held accountable for the rest of his or her life until they prematurely get diseased and die. And then our society says, oh, you deserve it. You go up to somebody in a party, Mike and Kevin, and so you go to somebody and you point to somebody and say, Bob over there, he's got pancreatic cancer. Oh, geez, really? Oh, that's Linda over there. She's got breast cancer. Oh, that poor thing. Let's, say a prayer for her. Oh, that's Tommy over there. He's got testicular cancer. Oh, shit, man. What a shame. Oh, that's Bonnie over there. She's got lung cancer. What'd she do? Smoke?
Yep.
So the attitude is there. And now we don't have the 40 million remaining smokers feel like they have been brought into the family yet, because we haven't fought hard enough with the science that we have, the research, the data, and we haven't gotten into the face of these damn Democrats and Republicans who are trying to take away the lifeline. And everybody calls it an exit ramp for smokers by saying, well, it's an on-ramp for kids. Oh, bite my ass. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of hoaxes. And people like Demetrius and me and Grim Green and Mike Runchy and Kevin Bowers and Phil Basardo and you and Bill Tarling, we all know that we are not the educated health educators, doctors, lawyers, and scientists. We are just guys and gals who know what we know. And we are the ones that have to fix and fight these people who have one job to do, and that is to raise the level of awareness, protect the public by being in public health, by being in the CDC, by being in the FDA, and by being in a position where they can help somebody enhance the quality of their life. Damn it, I'm sick of it. So I'm going to have to do something about it. And I'll have to do it my own way, since I haven't been brought into the fold other than being welcomed at a party or welcomed at an expo and given a hug and handshake. No one has called me in 4 years to sit down and ask me these questions. I have to go on shows like this. And that's not bitching. I'm just telling you like it is now. I've been thrown under the bus so damn many times it doesn't even hurt anymore. Okay, people like Mike Felling, who's been following me for years, and of course Kevin Crowley, and a lot of people. I may not say
I love Mike.
Oh, he's great. I may not say everything the right way. I may not say it with the proper word, because I barely got out of high school. In my senior year, I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I only need a 67 to pass. That's about as motivated as I was to move on into a higher education. So as you too, Kevin, right? That's how we are.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So all I can tell you is that I know I know stuff, and I'm just going to start telling the truth as I see it, and not worry about where the chips fall, because I'm not a member of SFATA, I'm not a member of the VTA, I'm not a member of CASA. I should be, because it doesn't cost anything, but they know they can call me anytime, and they are very friendly to me when I see them. But we don't have discussions and roundtables that the tobacco companies do. Yep. They may on the surface sound like they all hate each other, meaning Altria and RJ Reynolds and Laura. No, they get together all the time, figure out how to strategize to kick the shit out of us. And that's what they're doing. And we are handing them the vaping industry on a silver platter. And everybody who knows anything, including Demetrius and the people I respect the hell out of, and Phil, who have been fighting this as long as I have, they need to be listened to too. I don't always agree with Demetrius, and I'm sure he doesn't agree with me all the time. Vic doesn't agree with me all the time. I don't agree with James Jarvis all the time, but I love him. And I think that what he's doing is right for what he thinks is right for his people and his community and his stores. And we need to work together, and we're not. So there's no unification. Everybody's vying for the same dollars, and everybody's looking to be better because egos have run amok. And now we got a problem where all of our manufacturers, or a lot of them, are lining up at the trough waiting for the highest bid to come in to buy them out.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. Right now, though, I've got to take a break. We've got to run our sponsor slot, because without our sponsors, Smoke Free Radio could not do what it does. So we're going to go take a quick break, and I'm going to be talking to Kevin and find out where the bail money's at. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Hey now, this is Dimitri with Smoke Free Radio, reminding you to please show some love to our wonderful sponsors. Without them, there would be no Smoke Free Radio, and they are as follows. All the way from Florida, Moon Mountain Vapor, with locations in Florida, and their liquid available for wholesale and retail, moonmountainvapor.com. some of the best custards and tobaccos on the market from the Brickwills Vaping Company. The lovely Shell with a vapor bar, locations in Texas, Virginia, and West Virginia. And of course online at thevaporbar.com. And who says you can't have award-winning e-liquid without cartoon characters? That's exactly what you're going to get at theplumeroom.com. And finally, of course, the Vaping Advocate magazine that has generously provided the telephone lines for you to communicate with us. Thank you for your support. And finally, for you, the listener, don't forget to check out the coupons and codes page on Smoke Free Radio. Pick up some e-liquid and save some money. From all of us here at Smoke Free Radio, thank you for your continued support.
Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to Vaping and the Mic with Mike Peterson.
See, and he's coming back just in the nick of time.
I'm back.
The man knows how to make an entrance.
Who?
You. I was just sitting
Anybody
here.
know?
I was just sitting here going, "Oh shit, David's not
posted
back
Bob.
yet." Kevin and I were talking. The two of you had done a show last night, and there were different things that you had spoken about. And he and I were just sitting here remarking that you start on a subject, and if people can't hear the passion in your voice and what you're talking about, I'm going to suggest that they go to the ear doctor and get something checked out, because there's definitely something wrong, maybe too much earwax or something. But you made mention of a lot of things, and the last one that got me was all of the liquid manufacturers right now that are lining up, looking at the industry, and it's going to be this shark feeding frenzy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it bothers me because of how true that is. With the HPHC getting ready to come into enforcement, those are due in November. Anybody that doesn't do that legally has to exit the market. And that's going to cause all kinds of trouble in the industry. When we're talking like fire sales, and the Fig and I have talked about it. Dimitri and I have talked about it. I mean, everybody is well aware of what's going to happen.
Let me just put it to you this way. I don't expect anybody to listen to me that doesn't want to listen to me. I don't have a show that's, a lot of smoke and mirrors, and I don't have green screens. And my David G. Model Citizen podcast we just started it a few months ago, and it hasn't grown legs yet because, it's everywhere, because we didn't know what was going to happen with many things. And now you got the states that are fighting floor tax. You got Vermont that's looking at a 92% tax. You got, New Hampshire that's looking at a 63%, tax, and Alex Moody's up there fighting it. And then you got Montana with Deanna and Ron Marshall that fight every freaking day to help the people in their community. And nobody gives them, any love other than, 15, 20 people. And that's what I wanted to talk about for just
they do have a GoFundMe as well.
Yeah. And how much is in their GoFundMe? Do you know?
I have not looked. It's not a lot. It's
probably my bail money. It's probably similar to my bail.
That's why your bail money's so low.
Well, I know. Well, and that's the point I want to try to make, Mike. If people don't want to listen to me, I don't expect them to want to listen to me unless I make it interesting enough, because everything in this world today is about marketing. Everything is about how do you sell yourself. Everything has to, how much money. Aaron will tell you the first thing out of his mouth about 1 billion lives. So he didn't have money to market it. All he had was a few people at Molecule Labs and Von Earl and, several other people who would pay for an after party or a red carpet party.
See, but here's something that you have that no one else does. Decades of experience in the tobacco industry. I know there are other people out there. I listen to Dimitri because he has a wealth of information and knowledge. I love watching his show because of the way that he goes about doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody that's out there has their own little niche that they do things.
Mm-hmm.
And when people finally understand, here's a man that used to be the advertising guy, the face of Winston Cigarettes, that sat in on the meetings that said we are going to target children, that understood what the hell was going on in the background, that was part of or around at the time of the MSA, that stopped and went against who he used to work for. When people finally really understand all of that, it becomes just a holy shit kind of thing.
Mike, I've got 10 years into this since I started doing this. 10 years of people knowing who I am. And what it is, the bottom line is I don't have a filter on my mouth. I don't have initials after my name, as far as being a doctor or a public health educator or a teacher or a research scientist. I'm just the bimbo, but I'm a bimbo who knows shit. Okay. And you would think that in 10 years, and Kevin and I laugh about it all the time, but it really hurts me. And I used to take it personal, but I don't anymore, that you would think that organizations that is worth billions of dollars and can make even more, progress in a society in public relations. I've asked for a public relations campaign for the last 5 years, and people look at me like I have a third eye in the middle of my forehead. Like, what are you, frickin' nuts? We have to get lobbyists. We have to take a lobbyist, pay them $70,000, $80,000 a year to try to get a congressperson or a senator or some politician who was a part of the problem to get him to admit that he or she was wrong. Yeah. That, okay, because it ain't going to happen. So at the same time, when you need those lobbyists, which I firmly believe in, we do have to have advocacy, we do have to have activism, but at the same time, we got to take the 40 million people who are now being allowed to be disposable and exposable because nobody is stepping up to the plate by calling these people who are lying liars. I do. And of course, VTA and Safada and Kassad, they don't want me to call these people liars because it's going to mean that they're going to have a problem at the next OMB meeting or sitting down and walking the halls during a fly-in. So I understand why they don't want me, but I'm also the kind of a person, who I remind myself of? Remember the movie Jaws? And this is, again, sounds arrogant, and I apologize, but remember the movie Jaws?
Yep.
This big-ass shark going around killing people, and they tried everything to catch it. They tried every way to make it go away. They tried every way to kill it, and it didn't work. So then finally had to bring somebody in who was a little out of left field, which happened to be Robert Shaw, that Scott guy, and he's the one that had a way of catching this fish and ending the problem. I feel like that guy. But nobody wants to bring me in because somehow I'm going to have an offensive mouth. And, I don't curse that much. And I do clean up fairly well for an old man. I'll put a tie on if I have to, but I don't want to. But I do think that there's a way right now socially, media-wise, that we can make a difference. And I can do it. I know I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it either with them or without them. And I got Kevin who's standing by me. He's committed to me. I've got a few people. And let's go back to Aaron for just a minute, Mike, because that's been a question this week that's been really bugging me from people who ask me my opinion about, well, what do you think about this? Because I know there's a lot of people who think that, nobody should be giving him money for this new movie or donating. And I guess there's 482 contributors or whatever the number is now. And he finally got the goal of 50,000 to start the movie. And there's a lot of people who don't like that. And there's a lot of people who got screwed over before because Aaron didn't do it the way they wanted him to. And some of these people know who they are because they got pissed off because they had a better way of doing it. Aaron had a way of doing it. He thought he was doing it right. It did the job for what we wanted. The vapors didn't step up to the plate and back him. And it wouldn't have cost him anything but $11 to go see this movie, to talk about it, take somebody in their family that they love to see a movie somewhere in their theater. It certainly was around enough. And the players, the 3% of the people doing 100% of the work, certainly work their asses off to try to build a theater audience to get people in there and even pay for the damn tickets for people. So, and now he wants to do something else that's different because he's learned from his mistakes, and he's got a way to now get an explanation to people who are now confused and say, well, is it nicotine that kills you, or is it the carbon monoxide, the tar, the arsenic, the cyanide, the formaldehyde, the benzene, the ammonia? So he's going to try to find a way between now and October to really try to make a difference to get that explanation out there. So I'm going to give him 100,000, words of credit and support. I don't have money to give him. I just don't have it.
He's got 469 backers, 56,858.
Okay, so at 56,850, that's not a lot for a big movie to get the kind of legs that you need for the public to care. Because nicotine's a pretty boring subject unless you're a smoker, unless you have lung cancer, unless you believe that nicotine is what's causing your teeth to fall out and causing you to have heart disease. But he's going to give some sort of a balance to this, to where it gives us a little bit more knowledge to try to get out there and educate the 40 million remaining smokers who, and I'm just going to say it out loud. Smokers, get off your ass. If you want to quit, fine. If you don't want to quit, don't. There certainly is enough information out there that you can go to Google and you can check it out. You don't have to have a tutorial. If you know that you've been smoking for 40 years and you're wheezing, you're coughing, and you want to quit, you've decided it's time, check it out with a reputable, reasonably regulated product that you know, and forget the blowing up thing. And I know that's a subject I don't want to get into tonight, that young 24-year-old young man who died, and I know the reason why he died, and it's sad and it's tragic, and nobody should make light of it. Nobody should walk away and poo-poo it and say it's not important. But at the same time, we got to look at the thousands and thousands of people who are dying from machinery every year on the workplace because it malfunctioned or it didn't work. We don't hear a damn thing about them. We hear about the one kid who died because he or she got a bottle of e-liquid and drank it and passed away. But nobody cares that there's 33,000 other phone calls to the poison control, to take the kids who are now eating pods and eating consumer products and detergents and household things. So we need to put this into some sort of semblance of order, just like the same fears that we have with the infanticide, where New York and Virginia are looking to do full-term abortions, and everybody's got their own opinions. But right now we are just so overwhelmed with sadness and disgust and anxiety and pressure and nausea and money and taxes and immigrant, that nobody gives a rat's ass about the smoker because he or she did it to themselves. And that's where I want to try to raise that level of awareness in a public relations campaign. And I haven't gotten a damn call from anybody to say, hey, let's do it. Let's sit down. Let's talk about it. So I got to do it myself. So Kevin and I are going to do it. So there.
It's the one. It is the one thing that I hear constantly when I talk to people about smokers is everybody and their mother that does not smoke, or a former smoker that quit hard cold turkey, they will go, well, it was a choice they made on their own. Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. We all make choices. We all regret our choices. We would all like to change. Mm-hmm. So what the hell is wrong with leaving vapor products, e-cigarettes, on the market so that these people do have a healthier alternative? The science is out there.
What's wrong with banning a less harmful alternative?
But I'm just going to say something, guys.
Yeah.
Demetrius and people smarter than I am, and there's a lot of people smarter than I am, and I will follow Alex and Julie and Greg Conley into the pits of hell, to fight with them if I'm ever asked to. And I just don't want to go to a legislative hearing like they're having up with Matt Elliott in New York, and and he brings in 50 people, and when enough information went out to 3,000 people and 50 people show up. And I know he's frustrated, and I know Greg's frustrated. He's standing
in New York.
Yeah.
I think it was less than that.
Freezing their asses off and Spike and then Dave Abrams goes in, and then you get 50 people to show up and you're talking to nobody. I know how it works, but yet now you got these other organizations that are trying to get millions of dollars. And don't get me started on Juul giving millions of dollars to the VTA, and don't get me started on, and Blue sponsoring the NVE program up in Mohegan Sun in Connecticut next month, where I'm being inducted into a Hall of Fame. I have issues with that. I don't, I have a problem with that, since Blue was my brand of Von Earl when I was their face, and then they sold out under my nose without telling me. So yeah, I do have a disgust for the big tobacco companies. I do have a disgust for, people who are taking money from big tobacco industry. And I had a problem with Eric Yock and the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World, and with Aaron originally, but it was a knee-jerk reaction. It was something that I hated the big tobacco companies so much that now they're taking money, and Aaron's out doing a film called Global Confusion to try to get the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World on the map, which is funded by Philip PMI, so Philip Morris International. So, but I learned through my own open-mindedness, and that is that keep your friends close and your enemy closer. And the people that I trust in this business assured me that Derek Yock, the executive director, is not ever going to let PMI rule. But I didn't know that in the beginning. So everything that we do in this industry is knee-jerk. Everything we do is so immature because we don't have a history to follow. We don't have, history to look at and say, well, we should have done this because we did it 20 years. No, we have got to make this up as we go along. And if we don't use every resource that's available out there to get these 40 million remaining people, because my demographic is not a 21-year-old kid. I don't care if they, turn it to tobacco 21. It's just a scapegoat. That's just a way to detract from the real issue. And that is smokers are now expendable and disposable, and teenagers who are smoking at a rate of 6 million teens smoking combustible tobacco are forgotten because we're worried about the 2.5 million who are vaping, whether it's a Juul or a Bo or a JWO. I just can't deal with it anymore until we have a sit down under one umbrella and say, this is what we're going to do to fight. We better get a bigger, better, more angry, aggressive army than we have now. Otherwise, just kiss it goodbye, go into black market, do it yourself, get yourself a bunch of flavors and start getting ready to do it yourself. Because within a year and a half, when the PMTA starts hitting in November or December of 2019, you're going to watch, we're going to be left with 150 remaining manufacturers, and they will be up for bid for big tobacco as well. So that's just my prediction, just like I predicted that Juul was going to sell for $13 billion by the end of the year.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. You had mentioned earlier, right now you have David G, Model Citizen podcast, and you've been working on that. And I know that it is going to take a turn in direction. Do you have an idea of when that might occur?
Yeah, right now it's happening.
Okay.
As we speak. I work with Pinnacle, Kevin Lacey and Jessica Lacey from Pinnacle Hemp. The OMB, I'm sorry, the Farm Bill passed in 2018, December of 2018.
Let me see your shirt.
Pardon me? That's my shirt.
Yeah, show me.
Okay. CBD has now been decriminalized, okay? And there's a lot of vaping communities who are now jumping the creek to do CBD because it's now legal. As long as it's under 0.3%. And Kevin Lacey is remarkable when it comes to his knowledge on hemp. I've learned a lot in a year and a half because I use it. I'm not just selling it. I use it. I don't vape anymore, guys. You haven't seen me vape once tonight because I have COPD and emphysema, and I'm not going to sit here and vape just for shits and giggles so people should see. I started the vape because I wanted to create a discussion with people, for them to start a narrative to ask me what am I doing to maybe help them along. So I was vaping zero nicotine. But with Pinnacle CBD, the Pinnacle CBD hours, they're going to help me keep the podcast on, not financially, but through moral support. I could do this on my own. I could find a way to have, my guys, whether they're in Texas or here in Jersey with Steve Mathis or Jack Southwick down in Texas. We always have Kevin Crowley, and we're going to bring in guests that'll help educate on CBD, because I believe, unlike Big Ramsey, who I love dearly, and that's been a problem or an issue, that he doesn't think CBD should be a part, or didn't at one point. Maybe he's changed, I don't know, but that was an issue where we were fighting so hard to keep vaping alive that they didn't want to have distractions where CBD was going to become a fight within states like Alabama, where we went to a show in Mobile and they weren't allowed to sell CBD. That's changing now. But I believe with all my heart that smokers, and my demographic, again, is not the 18, 19, 20 to 30-year-olds, because they haven't been smoking long enough. They don't have the ailments that a lot of people who've been smoking like I did for 40 years and you did for a long time. we have other issues that need to be looked at. And if you're going to talk wellness, if you're going to sell wellness, and you're going to talk vaping being 95% better than smoking, then you better step up to the plate and offer other protocols. Because what's more stressful than somebody who smoked for 50 years to quit smoking if you can't give them something that's going to help them through that transition by giving them something that's less stressful? And that's what CBD does. So I saw the magic in that. So the Pinnacle CBD Hour, Pinnacle Hemp Hour, is going to be associated with my podcast, because Kevin and I are going to learn as much as we can about cannabis, because now states are going medicinal marijuana. States are going recreational marijuana. States have now gone 50 states now where CBD is legal. It's now been decriminalized as long as it stays under 0.3%. It's going to be now probably regulated by the FDA, because a lot of CBD is infused into edibles. And now the FDA says, well, we can step in now because it's going and being ingested into your body through an edible.
They shot themselves in the foot when they went from a tincture to an edible.
Yeah.
If they would have stayed just a tincture, that the FDA may or may not have been able to do anything. And let me ask you another question. You were talking about New York and legalization of marijuana. Michigan did it. Other states have done it.
Missouri did it.
Do you think for New York, did they do it because of taxation?
Sure.
That, to me, that's the only reason that they're turning around and saying, yes, we're going to legalize recreational. Really? For years, they fought against it.
Don't use New York or California as your barometer. Those
oh, my God, no.
Two of the worst bookends you can use, West Coast and East Coast. New York is more screwed up than any other state with their politicians, and I can't stand any of them. California, pretty much the same way. Yes, of course, it's taxation. It's going to be a $400 billion industry by 2025, based on everything that I've read. Right now, it's huge. Right now, people are making money. We've got, I don't know the exact number, and people will correct me if I'm wrong. Please do, because I need to learn. I can't follow everything. But I do know that there are, at least 26 or 28 states that are now medicinally marijuana approved if you have ailments and you can't, get opiates, and you can't get Oxycontin, you can't get, Percocet, and you can't get, all the other things that will help you. You can go get a script, and if you get a reputable doctor, I'm all for that. I'm all for the recreational marijuana decriminalization. If you want to vape or smoke it, I would prefer people to vape it, because I think anything that you put into your lung that's burning, can't be good for you, based on what I know about combustibles and burning. And people could probably prove me wrong and say there's no harm. I totally disagree, since I did smoke for so many years, and now I have COPD and emphysema. So, you can't take that away from me. It's kind of like the guy who got, bit by a pit bull. You might be a little afraid of the pit bull when you walk down the street. It doesn't mean that you're prejudiced and you hate all pit bulls. You're just a little bit more gun shy.
Yep. And
that's what we need to go back to this in the vaping industry. If we want to save any of this industry, and I know there's a lot of people think that we're doomed. I'm one of them. I believe that, within a year and a half that the tobacco industry will be running it. I believe that Juul and IQOS will have their own shops. I believe that it'll go back. You won't have any online sales of e-liquid or vaping products anymore, because the big tobacco, is so powerful, along with big pharma, that the FDA has already gotten their marching orders, and that was marching orders have now been given to Jerome Adams, and that's why I need to get to the Donald. I need to go see my buddy Donald Trump, and I need to sit his ass down, push his hair out of his forehead, and say, you need to start working on, some things that are going to be your base in 2020 if you really want to get reelected, based on, you got a lot of vapors out there who would love your support, and the fact that they were now finding a way, without any help from the government, without a grant, without a counseling session, without a support group, that you can now help the remaining 40 million people. And I would like to be able to tell him that would be a good opportunity for him, when he's thinking about, being reelected, because there are right now 51 million people, and you can win elections on that very, very easily. And so I just think that, even though I'm not a politician, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a research scientist, I'm not a lobbyist, I'm just an old guy who's tired, who did something wrong. I paid it back. I pretty much paid it forward. I mean, I've paid my recompense. I've done my due diligence to tell people I'm sorry for what I did, but I don't think enough people took advantage of it, unlike Aaron Biebert, who did take advantage of it in a good way, because I was able to help him and he was able to help me to where we got on the map globally, that we are pretty much a part of the vaping industry because it helps people live longer. So I think that's pretty much all I can say. That's what I want to do, and that's what I'm going to continue to do as long as I'm alive. And
See,
I
and
just want to make sure.
that's one of the things when you said, do you want to get together and do a show? My first reaction was then, and it will always be, oh, hell yeah, we're going to do a show. Because this is the passion. These are the things that people need to hear. Hey, I know that I'm going to hear from other people later on going, well, you didn't talk a whole lot, or you didn't ask a lot of questions, and they're going to say, Kevin didn't say much of anything. Kevin and I are both sitting here because we understand the power and the value. I
sound arrogant. I know I do. And a lot of people will say that this asshole is an arrogant son of a bitch. He thinks I don't know it all, but I do know a lot. And I do know that the big tobacco companies don't give a rat's ass about anybody. And I don't think the FDA is looking at this whole picture the way, because right now, let's understand, any organization that's anti-tobacco is alive and well because they need smokers to continue to smoke. That's where their funding comes. So they will do everything to keep their troughs full. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on a statistic or the word I use or whatever, but give me 3 hours with somebody to really do a good podcast to where people will really sit down, take notes, and get their ears perked up and say, hey, just like A Billion Lives did. But A Billion Lives only had 2 million American vapors saw it, and we had 8 or 9 million at the time. Now we're up to 10. And now we got 8 million vapors who still don't know what the frig A Billion Lives is.
Yep.
So we got to do something that's going to do a public relations campaign, to where, if I have to do it in blackface, maybe that would get me some press. Maybe I would be able to tell my story if I did blackface like these
Somebody
governors.
say bail money.
Huh?
Bail
well, you know
money.
what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying, Mike. I'm just saying, that's the nature of the beast that we're dealing with.
It is difficult to try to get any kind of traction in a media sense when you don't have that money. Even Bill Charlie.
And the money as well as the public support, because public still thinks that anybody who chose to smoke as a kid deserves what he or she got, because there's ways to quit, but they just don't want it because they're stupid.
Because they don't understand that.
They don't get it. So we need to do a PR campaign to get the public, because everybody out there has a loved one who smokes, dips, spits, or chews tobacco, and that will ultimately, probably in most cases, not always, but in most cases, be their demise somewhere down the road.
Yeah, it's the only product, and then I'll shut up for a minute. I promise, Kevin. Cigarettes are the only product legally sold that, when used as directed, will kill half of the fucking consumers that use it.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
You know what I have, Mike and Kevin? I've said it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. My job as the Winston Man was what I told you earlier, to get kids to smoke. And the quote that I went to Congress with in 1988 or 89 rather, was they asked me a question, and I said, well, the R.J. Reynolds executives don't smoke. And some people have heard this, and a lot of people haven't. But the R.J. Reynolds executive asked me a question, because we were at the top of Mount Evans at 12,000 feet. And do you know what happens to a heavy smoker on top of a mountain at 12,000 feet when you're trying to do ads to make smoking associated with repelling in mountain climbing? Because mountain climbing and smoking, they go together, And the executive was laughing at me. I said, how come you guys from R.J. Reynolds don't smoke? He said, we don't smoke the shit. We just sell it. We reserve it for the young, the poor, the black, and the stupid. Now, that was in 1989, and that was 30 years ago. And today, we're still talking about the same thing. And now everything in the world has changed except that. Everything has changed. Car seats for babies have changed. Seatbelts have changed. Cell phones have changed. Progress has been made in mortality rates and everything else except lung cancer. Okay? Everything is now new and improved. You can't do it. You can't take peanut butter crackers to nursery school anymore because some kids' peanut allergies. Then you got the other kids who are coming in with no vaccinations, bringing in deadly diseases. So we're just all so confused. And, this world's falling. Yeah, well, we're going to let it fall apart because we're not taking our nation's number one cause of death to get the people who could live longer to maybe motivated to get out there and fight for what we know is true, to be a bigger army. That's all I'm trying to say, if that makes any sense to anybody who's listening to your program.
And that's the biggest thing. Kevin, you started to say something, and I interrupted you.
Oh, that's all right. the public has to hear what we're talking about, and they don't know what we're talking about when we talk to each other. So you have tools to stop smoking. Why can't you stop smoking? Okay. So you get the stigma and you're a dirty, stinky smoker. I'm still a smoker at heart. I smoked professionally for 30 some odd years. So I have these tools and they don't work. Well, they just released whyquit.com. If you guys want to look at it, FDA knew that they didn't work through the studies. They let them go through anyway, just like they do everything else. So those didn't work. Now there's a study a few weeks ago that says they're slapping extra patches on people, and it is working because of the nicotine levels.
Right.
So the outside public looking in is looking at the heart, cancer, and lung associations who just walk into any city, state, town, whatever. The council that they're looking at is like, hey, Bob, I'm going to come over tomorrow and we want this to be done. And then Bob says, okay, no problem. And then they walk in and we walk in. Well, we just look like we're idiots because they've already got their ear. They've already set their goal. So they have to have, in my opinion, Bob's ear, but they have to talk to Bob first. They have to understand with the science, with the data, with the truth about anything, including the nicotine thing with Aaron, which I'm not going to go into. I'm supporting it. That's it. But if the public doesn't understand that, and those organizations walking in to ban less harm are going to benefit by doing so, by selling more cigarettes to fund them in the long run, either through healthcare / pharma / whatever, all the adjectives you want to stick in there in the middle. They're not going to listen.
Yep.
Bob's going to walk out of the thing with his decision and say, yep, we'll make it 21. And they're going to ban, restrict, regulate, and tax vaping products. So
the fat lady's already singing, guys. The fat lady.
Yeah, it's already done. And
and a lot of people don't want to believe that. They say, well, you're negative. Yeah,
it is negative.
Yeah, I'm pretty negative, and I've always said from the very beginning, and a lot of people, and most people do like me, I think I'm a pretty decent guy who may be rough around the edges, and, but I've always believed that to make a difference, you have to be different, and I'm about as different as they come, and Kevin has recognized that. Steve recognized, certainly Aaron Biebert recognized that, or royalty wouldn't have given me such a good opportunity in a film that was the first really good film about vaping and corruption and big pharma and what it can do. So I'm going to give him full support on what I know he's capable of doing, and I would love to see him funded, and I would love to be able to see him do a good movie about how you break down all of the misinformation and debunk the myths about nicotine one way or the other, win or lose,
right?
However it falls, either way, let's get it out there and let's use that as our more bigger platform to go after what we need to do. And that is to now argue with these people who see a juuling, 14, 15-year-old in high school or middle school, which contains 50 milligrams of nicotine when, 12 milligrams would have been fine for that young person. But now Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids and Surgeon General Adams and and all the other people who are promoting it by just keeping it in the public eye, because kids are always going to do stupid shit. Kids, do these people not remember what it was like to be a teenager? Kids are still binge drinking in 2019. They're still texting and driving. They're still having unsafe sex. They're still bullying. They're still not following the rules. But yet, this juuling thing, this epidemic, which is a big hoax, because every national tobacco use survey is a fraudulent hoax. I've given them, I've reviewed them, I've scored them. You know what? Everybody who does a national use survey, remember what it was like, Mike, when you were a teenager, and if somebody came into your school and said, we're doing a survey for so-and-so, answer these questions. And the first question is, do you smoke? You know what my answer was? Screw you. None of your business. I ain't telling you.
You're going to tell my mom.
Why would I get out of my face? Bite me. So they use these lies, they cherry pick their information, junk science, and so Stanton Glantz was the perfect poster boy for fraud, hoax, huckster, shyster. So that's basically all I can say, but nobody wants me to say that publicly and then stand with me because they don't want to be guilty by association if the shit hits the fan. Bring it on.
Yeah, they don't want the splatter effect.
No, I do. I don't care because I'm above the opinions that other people have of me. And this threat of a lifetime sentence isn't that much of a deterrent anymore for me, guys.
If consumers can't join CASA,
Shame on them.
shame on them. If vape shops can't go minimum state group, minimum. Start one if you don't. New Mexico just got one. It's 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in industry. If I were in industry, I would want to be with somebody with a trade association that is watching the idiots.
You know what? New York has worked so hard. New York State Vaping Association. I know everybody in it. I was a part of it, a few years back when a guy up there at Unique E-Cigarettes gave me an opportunity to try to make a couple bucks in wholesaling for his e-liquid line, and I failed miserably because I'm not a salesperson. I'm not good at certain things. It's not my milieu, So, but the New York State Vaping Associations, they work so hard, those poor people. Now they got the Flavor Band coming, and then they got Matt Elliott over there in Long Island and Spike. Every day they work their butts off, and and they get very little support from people. They get a lot of criticism, like I do, like you do, Mike, and like you do, Kevin. And if anybody wants to get educated on nicotine and vaping news, got to go to Kevin Crowley's blog, because every day I look at it when I can, and I call him up, and every couple of weeks I say, let's do a podcast, because I've been sick a lot, and my health is pretty tenuous right now. But here's what I want to answer to you, Mike, because you asked me this in the very beginning, and I got diarrhea of the mouth again, and I apologize.
You're fine.
But I'm going to do a documentary. I'm going to do a series of them about my story, about my life. I'm going to do the David G. Story about how we got to this point, who I am first. Second one will be, how we got into this vaping corruption and conundrum and this train wreck that we're in. And now we're in the third stage of fighting it. And that's what I tell everybody when I do a program. Truth is based on three things, and truth. And if you don't believe me, you can argue with me. But truth, the first stage of truth, Mike, is you're ridiculed. You're ridiculed, you're laughed at, vaping is stupid, it's no good. Then the second stage, after a while, it's violently opposed because it's got legs and people are doing it and it's exponentially growing. It's becoming a culture. So now you got to oppose it. Then finally, after you can't oppose it anymore, you have to go in and take it over, and you take credit for it. And that's exactly where we are in stage 3. Big tobacco taking it over, taking the taxes, because they're the only ones that are going to have the millions and millions of dollars for the PMTA and all the other application processes that are coming up. And Demetrius is 100% right. And he and I haven't talked a lot other than we see each other at a show. But we don't commiserate about things because there's no unity. And, we all have different ideas because we're all different people with different egos and different backgrounds. And here's the problem. You got us. There's this business. How long you been in this vaping thing, Mike, yourself?
I started vaping 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay. And when did you start doing radio?
Oh, the radio stuff. Dimitri provides the platform.
Yeah, but when did you start doing it?
Oh, Lord. This is our 32nd show, so let's trump back about 40 weeks. About a year. Less than a year, actually.
And what was Demetrius before this? He was a reviewer, and he owned a restaurant, Portofino's, down in Chattanooga area. And Phil Bissardo was an engineer and a DJ. And Grim Green, he was a reviewer. And Mike Runchy was a reviewer. And then you got everybody. Then you got all these people saying, "Hey, we can make this freaking liquid. We throw in some, this, and we add a little flavor, and we get a clinical trial, and we bottle it, and we put a SpongeBob on the front. And we got off on the wrong foot because there was no industry. We made the industry up as we went along. Yeah. And then you got people like there's nobody smarter than Demetrius. There's nobody smarter who has more knowledge than Fig Ramsey. There's nobody smarter than people like Mike Felling, who watches this every day and he responds to stuff, and Skip Murray out in Minnesota, and Kevin Price, and and all these. I can't name them. There's thousands of them, but thousands of them aren't a match to the millions of people who are fighting us with darts and weapons and assault rifles, and we're lobbying back Nerf darts, as defense. We need to stop that. Otherwise, I'll just have to do it myself and say, "Hey, I'm a loner in this. I have always been a lone wolf." And Demetrius always called me a loose cannon. You know, that's one of the things he said to me.
Yes, he
you know,
did.
Yeah, I'm a loose cannon. I'm proud of it. I am a loose cannon because to make a difference, you have to be different, and I'll stand by it, and I'll take it to my grave. And my family knows I'm different. My family knows I'm unique. I sometimes I'm a schizophrenic. You know, I'm going to write a new book called "I'm a Schizophrenic, and So Am I." I think that'll probably sell really, really well. Because I have to ride both sides of the fence here, just like I was asked to go down to Austin in December and pick a side with Zafata or VTA. Zafata, I'm not going to pick sides. I have friends on both sides. I love everybody who's doing what I try to do, and that is to be a part of a community to help people, the smoker, find a way to make a transition. And I can't be any simpler than that. I know it sounds like hokey. I don't care. It's what I do. That's what I say. I don't make any money doing this. You know, the only people that are paying me are the people at Pinnacle who believe in my name, and my name may be something that may be good to sell the product, which I believe in. I use it every day at a rate of 25 to 30 milligrams a day because I don't have to take Oxycontin anymore. I don't have to take, Flexeril anymore. I don't have to take gabapentin anymore because these are the things I was hooked on after 4 cervical spine surgeries and shoulder replacement from an accident when I got hit by a tractor trailer. There's millions of people who are going through this every day, and now they can't get opiates because they're addicted, because now the doctors have been caught and arrested because they regulated it, and now they have no place to go. So let's give them an alternative that we know is beneficial on all spectrums of science and research, which is Pinnacle, hemp, koi. I don't care, but Pinnacle is my brand because I believe in the full spectrum versus an isolate for me. Everybody else can pick and choose what they want, but it has to be made available and regulated reasonably, taxed reasonably, and watched, because I certainly want to know what I'm putting into my body.
Yep.
You know, and we know what we were putting into our body when we smoked for 14, 15, and 16, and it was 4,700 chemicals, gases, poisons, irritants, vapors, and pesticides, of which, 67 are known carcinogenic. You know, we don't have any of that in the vaping, and they're trying to take that away, and that just pisses me the fuck off.
Guys, we're going to have to wrap up here for a minute. Kevin?
Yes, sir.
What have you got in closing comments that you might want to tell people?
If you're a shop, join a state group, period. If you're going to join a national group, pick one. If you're a consumer, talk to your friends. Explain to them what you know. Explain to them how they're being lied to, period. They're absolutely being lied to. They wanted you to quit smoking. Now they have to listen to you.
And also, can I add to this, Kevin? Don't be afraid to ask your organization, what do they intend to do with your donation?
Absolutely.
Get a strategy of what their plan is, because they have them. You know, you see it in Kentucky, you see it in Tennessee, you see it
in Ohio.
Ohio, and James Jarvis, it works his butt off out there. And
Virginia.
There's a lot of shitty ones too, but the ones that you really, really want to go after are the ones that are trying every day. Even though politics may win above all, because people think we should win because we're right. Unfortunately, that's not the way.
It's not going to happen. Not going to happen.
So you have to fight with every ounce of breath in you, and you need an army behind you. So when people ask you to go out and call your senator and your legislator, and people sit back and say, somebody else would do it. That's why we're in this position. So yes, Kevin said, join them, but do ask what their plan is.
Ask what their plan is. If you're a consumer, again, you got to vote. You have to go to your senator. You have to call them. You have to go to meetings. You go to your city council, just your local city council. If you're not educating the city council before the heart, lung, and cancer body part associations walk in, you're not educating them. They're going to take the other side. That's what they're going to do. That's what they're trained to do. Why would they lie?
That's right.
And that's pissing me off. The other part of that, I just put a bunch of memes out because I'm an idiot. I put a CASA meme out, join CASA. I put the link up, and I put a little logo up, and it doesn't get shared. I'm not worrying about shares, but I put silly things out, and it gets shared all day long. So I also was putting out, when I did the state of public health blog I did a few days ago, I found out of the heart, lung, cancers, and all the other organizations, including the Department of Health, CDC, I found their statements. So I'm taking a little picture of Jerome, the Surgeon General, and I'm putting his statement on his picture in with the seal. Use that. Walk into a city council meeting and say, look, this is what these people are actually saying, but they're hiding it inside a PDF that you can't find. The consumer can't find it, even if they want to find it. And that pisses me the fuck off. So they're lying. They're absolutely lying.
I know you have to wrap this up, but let me just leave you with this. In my opinion, because I have to go too. I'm sick. I got to do a breathing treatment because that's all the fun stuff you get to do when you're my age. Let me just tell you, Mike, that there is definitely, and I have proof. I have corroboration. There is a brilliant symbiotic relationship between big tobacco, big farm, and the anti-tobacco people, and it's a perfect storm. It is apparently almost bulletproof, because we can't break it. We can't shatter the ceiling on it, because we don't have a big enough army to do it. And there's a public health issue to where the tobacco companies are in charge, and they are now dictating how this is going to play out over the next 18 months before the 2022 process, because we're never going to see that. It's going to happen before that in end of 2019 or early 2020. And I think we're going to really see an implosion here and people jumping ship, and I would like to prepare people for that, or they can get off their asses and do something.
I would love to see even a percentage to begin of people that would get off their ass, make a phone call, write an email, write a letter, go to the city council. And the apathy that I see, just from my standpoint, the apathy in the industry, it looks like a glacier that is just sitting there. They don't give a shit.
And the people we're fighting are Schadenfreude. You know what Schadenfreude is?
It's a ship.
No, Schadenfreude's not a ship.
No, the ship's sailing. You go ahead.
Okay. Mike, do you know what a Schadenfreude is?
No, I don't.
A Schadenfreude is someone who delights in the agony and misery of other people. That is a Schadenfreude. And right now, the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, the Truth Initiative, ACS, ALA, AHA, they are Schadenfreude. They are delighting in the fact that we still have, after all these years, 40 million remaining smokers. And now they're making it impossible for people in Vermont with a 92% tax increase that looks like it may pass. They will not be able to save their own lives. They want to be in control of everybody. And I'm pretty sick of that. It's not just that state, it's all states. And, we need to do something, or just walk away and give it to them and let the chips fall where they may.
I'm not giving them shit.
Well, win or lose, if we don't go down trying, we should be ashamed of ourselves.
Yeah.
When my own mom turned around in her early 70s and finally switched to vaping, and 2 weeks later called and said, hey, I'm not wheezing when I go up and down the steps anymore.
Ding.
People just don't get it.
I don't even want to talk about. I don't even want to talk about the Royal College of Physicians in the United Kingdom. I don't want to even talk about the thousands and thousands of documents and research, replicatable research and science that has been proven that it is better. And even everybody that we know, but they're going to keep using kids, because everybody feels for kids, and we all do. Isn't it amazing? I'll leave you with this, and I got to go. But, you raise your kids. I have 7 grandkids, and I had my 2 grandkids here today all day, a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old. So you're very careful what you say. You don't cuss. You try not to use words that are going to be graphically horrible, like, shut up and you're stupid. You try to be appropriate. You do all these things until that child's about 9 or 10, and then the kid comes home and tells you to fuck off. But they're not getting it at home. They're getting it from the outside world and the environment. And I'm just using that as an example, because kids are going to be kids. Kids are going to try things. And if we don't give them information, it's true. Nobody will let me in the schools ever again because of the Juul thing. Juul has come up with some sort of a youth prevention program. You think a school's going to let Juul in there? You think they're going to let me in there because I used to be the Winston Man? Well, I did for 16 years. For 16 years, I was paid to go into schools as an anti-tobacco activist. And I could do the same thing with vaping, but no one has let me, or no one has brought me into the discussions and negotiations.
See, that is exactly why I love having you and talking to you, because you have a perspective that no one, and I mean no one, if the Marlboro Man were still around, we would be hearing much the same thing from him. But, folks, guess what? He died. Why?
Right.
Smoking-related illness.
Yeah. So that's where we're at, Michael. And, I do my podcast because I want people to listen to me. And if they don't want to listen to me, fine. Listen to somebody. Go listen to somebody else. If it has to be a lobbyist and you want to listen to politicians, bad or bad, I don't care. I don't want to go see a lobbyist. Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, you ever hear of her in Connecticut? She's the one working with Dickie Blumenthal up there in Connecticut. He's the senator that's been so anti-vaping for years. I hated him before I even knew what vaping was. I hated him back in the 90s when he was attorney general in Connecticut. Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, brought me up there to do school programs for anti-tobacco schools, and she smacked me on the ass with her hand, and now she's out there yesterday and today with all of these women in white, and the Democrats trying to propose that they're out there looking out for, the health and wellness of people. And they're saying vaping is worse than smoking. And they got Jerome Adams saying that, it's an epidemic, just like heroin. So this has got to stop. And I'll do what I can. And you do what you can, Michael. Kevin and I will do what we can. We'll do it in our podcast. We'll do it in little mini documentaries. We'll do it in YouTube, hit and run. So, but we'll continue to do the best we can. But thanks for having me on the show tonight, Mike.
David, honest to God, I appreciate it. It has been a pleasure. Kevin,
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you being here, sir.
I appreciate you letting
Ain't
me.
he awesome?
You and
He's
I,
so awesome.
you and I just kind of sat here and made sure he didn't go too far off the rails.
It's $21 in bail money now.
Exactly. See, that's the right attitude right there.
I'm gonna.
Sometimes you got to let me go off the rails, though. That's the only way I can continue tomorrow. So thank you for giving me the opportunity, buddy.
Anytime. Anytime.
And you're on my podcast in the next week. I know I've been saying it for a couple of weeks, but we're really going to have you because I have a little different audience, and I think you need to be a part of what we do as well.
I would love to.
Demetrius,
I would love to.
others.
Anytime.
All right, pal.
All right, guys. For the
night.
folks that are watching or tuning in later, guest David Goerlitz, the former Winston Man, and Mr. Kevin Crowley, who is vapinglinks.org. And you want to check it out. Blog.
Yes, sir.
Tell me. All right, you tell the audience how to get in touch with you. What is it?
Vapinglinks.blog.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I'm reading your shirt. It's thrforlife.org.
Yes. Yes.
Or better yet, Mike, have everybody call Kevin at home between 3 and 4 in the morning.
Oh.
Wait a minute. 304.
3 and 4 in the morning.
No, I was giving out the number.
Yeah, he was going to give him your fucking phone number.
Good night, guys.
All right,
Good night.
everybody, have a
Love
great
you both.
night. I will catch everybody again in a week with another edition of Vaping in the Mic. Thanks for tuning in tonight.
Good night.